Welcome to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, here to share some amazing conversations. We're talking business, health, making and saving money, or starting something epic. Think of this as your go-to spot for stories that do a lot more than just kill time. They spark ideas, give you a boost, and perhaps even change the way you look at the world. I'm pulling in the experts, the thinkers, the doers, and the dreamers. We're about to dive into stories that open doors and ideas that light up your brain. Here we go. Welcome, everyone, to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, and with me today is my guest, Amita Sharma. How are you today, Amita?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's beautiful and sunny weather here in California. Thank you.
Yes, excellent. And I am in Arizona, and we are having hot temperatures right now and sunny and beautiful here. But welcome again, Amita. I'm so excited for our conversation today. And this is just a little bit of background about you. You are the co-founder of NourishDoc, and this is really a holistic wellness kind of platform that empowers women who are going through the hormonal changes. So peri to postmenopause, and really offers a lot of great information, insights, tools, resources for women going through those transitions. And so you're going to tell us all about that. But first, Amita, I always love to have my guests share how this journey began for them and what led down this path for you.
It actually started with my strange experience going through the perimenopause. But at that time, I did not know that I'll be sitting in front of you and talking, right? At that time, I was so bothered with my symptoms that it actually overpowered my entire life. It wasn't only the physical part of hot flashes. People think, oh, hot flashes, night sweats, and then that's when you start the perimenopause. That's far, far, far from truth. It was so many things, right? So that happened to me as well. And I was so miserable, and I couldn't take medication for whatever reason. And I had to go into research into the holistic therapies and went into it and experimented on myself. So that's kind of how the journey started. And then come COVID, I wanted to do something on holistic wellness because of my love for holistic wellness. And then when I started looking into it, and I said, well, why not just this topic? And I talked to so many people, and everybody thought I was crazy. He said, are you crazy? This is such a taboo. Why the heck would you bring all these things up? All that, this is 3 years back. A lot of things have happened since then. A lot of people are talking openly now. And so that's how it started. I said, no, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to give it a shot. And if it doesn't succeed, hey, something else will come up. So there I am.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. And really, I think it is so important that we talk about these things, because the more knowledge and information that we share with others, the better the experience that all of us can have, right? And especially women who are in their early 30s, mid 30s, into their 40s, beginning to experience some of these things that we could touch on, the many different things that happen beyond hot flashes and night sweats, as you were indicating. And so I think it's so important that we are talking about these things. And so thank you for the work that you're doing and the help that you're providing to others, including us today. Before we began, you were sharing a little bit also about your experience working on kind of user interface and that kind of thing. And so was that part of how you developed the NourishDoc site and kind of why you wanted to pursue that path to share this information?
Yeah, so as I said, my background was working as a product manager for Fortune 500, some other companies, even in startups in Silicon Valley. So I was working on the user experience, creating these immersive experiences on website or on app for end user, and working with the designers, the UX designers in this case, and engineers to bring it together. So that's something I absolutely love, creating the experiences, because I come from an architectural background. I studied architecture, and I love creation part, right? So that's one of the reasons. And that, of course, has helped me to do the creation of how I wanted this NourishDoc to come along, right? How can it help women? Not only from the experience, but the affordability, the overall breadth and the depth of the resources that we want to provide, so that it isn't something that's useful to them.
Yeah, I love that. Your journey is wide and varied. And you were an architecture, you studied architecture and got into probably living in California and Silicon Valley, maybe that kind of tech background. But I just love the flow and how our lives are not necessarily always linear, right? We are free to change. We have the opportunity to change and do something different as things open up for us. And so thank you for sharing that. I think that's lovely. Can we talk a little bit about some of the myths that are around perimenopause to postmenopause? And as we both share, there's more than just hot flashes and night sweats. What are some of the other things that maybe we don't hear a lot about and or myths that you do hear?
So perimenopause, we can start with the perimenopause. So it actually impacts our entire life. It's not just like you rightfully said, hot flashes or night sweats. It's also about our emotional well-being. It's also about our mental state. It's of course the physical part is there. So everything changes because of the hormone fluctuations that are happening to in a woman's body, right? The way woman's body gets prepared when the menstrual health starts in puberty. Now the woman's body is preparing to shut down the menstrual cycle, right? That's what's happening. And during that whole process, it's not a switch. It happens over a period of number of years, I should say that. That's perimenopause journey. Most of the women don't understand. I had no clue the word perimenopause. Even I have talked to over 4,000 women and they said, what? What are you talking about? What is perimenopause? I know menopause. I have no clue that it's going to last me for 10 years. Can you imagine that? So it's crazy, right? So if we are not prepared as women, specifically women in 30s, mid 30s, if they don't know what's going to hit them, like it hit me, completely unprepared, and I'm like miserable for a number of years. So that's the biggest myth. Women don't understand that it's going to last them for years and years. That's number one. Number two, the menopause is not one size fit all. It's different for each woman, specifically from different ethnic groups as well. The age, as an example, an average age of when a woman hits menopause is 51, 52. Latino and African American women hit earlier, about 48, 2 to 3 years earlier than an average age. And women from India, an Indian woman, they hit it 46, 47, 6, 7 years earlier. So, and even the symptoms are different. So symptoms are more aggravated in Latino and African American women, and symptoms are also different in other South Asian women, like Japanese women. They don't get as many hot flashes because of the diet, right? The dietary things that they've been using for over a number of years. So it's like so many things. It's so convoluted. It's not just one thing. That's what I really want women to understand, that it is not simple switch off of periods that, okay, I don't have periods anymore. I can do whatever. But during this whole process, you need to understand so many things are happening.
Yeah, that's so great for the points that you just made. Understanding that the experience is going to be different for every woman and that the differences in the different ethnicities as well. And I had no idea that the age ranges were different. And so thank you for sharing that. And I think this is something that's important for you and the work that you're doing, is that understanding this cultural kind of sensitivity around the topic as well, and understanding that it's different for all of us and it's not the one size fits all. Really, it mirrors our life. Like our lives are all completely different. And so we have to recognize that this is going to be different for us as well, right? Genetics are different. What we're eating, our diet is different. And so that's going to have an impact on all of this. That's such a great point to remember. Good stuff. So can we talk then about how important it is to consider that? And when we're talking about these topics, because you'd mentioned earlier, like sort of taboo topics, menopause and sort of the sexual health of women, and how it's going to be different talking to women across cultures. So do you want to share your thoughts on that and like how you're working with women in that way?
Yeah. So loss of libido could be one of the symptoms that many women may face. It's not that all women are going to have loss of libido. That's just one of the thing. And that can also impact relationships with their partners if they are not open about discussing it, right? And in the society, if you look at the stats, the rise of gray divorce, right? We know that. And there's a data that came out in UK and US, 60% of the women who get divorced are menopausal years, during the menopausal years. So it's not just, okay, loss of libido, sexual health. It's more than physical. It's also impacting the society, right? If you think about it, that if someone gets divorced during these years, this also impacts the kids, the families. It's not just the two, right? Two people in here, right? It's much more than that, is what I'm saying. So I think it's important for women who are going through that, and if they have issues with their pelvic health or sexual health or loss of libido, for them to have a safe space to express what they're feeling and seek help. It's important to seek help, right? There are ways that can be improved. It's not that there's no hope. Yeah, that's how we are approaching it. And every culture is different, right? In some culture, it's not okay to talk about this. It's taboo. And some cultures, it's okay to talk about, depending on the ethnicity, depending on the education women have, right? And depending on where they're living in the world, for that matter, or what kind of family background, so many things, right? It's very intricate society parts that comes into being when you discuss topic like sexual health as an example.
Yeah. Oh, you're absolutely right. And I think many women are very uncomfortable even talking to their own doctors about this. And I'm not sure what the solution is. Like, is it just being brave enough to say what's happening in your life and you need help, like asking for help, having the courage to talk about these things with your doctor or your healthcare professional? And do you have any thoughts on how women can find the courage to discuss these things if there is not only the taboo, but just your own maybe insecurity about it?
Yeah, I think women, from what my experience talking to almost 4,000 women at this age group, is that they need a safe space, right? They don't want to be judged. For instance, if I talk to my friends might judge me for whatever, because they know me from years and years. Oh, I've known her. Now you see where I'm coming. So I think we want to provide women sort of like a non-judgmental, safe space where they can speak their mind openly without having the fear of being judged. So that is very important. And that always comes with some professional, like in this case, it could be a therapist, a sexual therapist, sexologist. Well, it doesn't have to be your medical doctor. It could be a sexual therapist. Like I've come across so many sexual therapists who are trying to help couples get over this whole issue of sexual health. As an example, it's more like a therapy, I think, rather than a medical thing.
It does sound like having somebody talk therapist that you can discuss these things with is very valuable, but it could possibly also be a health issue that you should be speaking to your doctor about, because the hormone changes in your body do have an impact on a lot of factors, right? So it sounds like it's probably two parts. You may need to speak to 2 or 3 different people depending on what your needs are. But I think that's a great point, that you've got to just even take the chance or the opportunity to be discussing these things so that your health and well-being going forward can be improved, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, just to expand that point on the doctor point of view, medical health, it's due to the hormonal fluctuations, the vaginal wall gets very thin. And that's why sometimes women get pain when they're having intercourse, as an example. Now, that could be a medical thing. There could be different things that can be done to make your pelvic area stronger, right? So it could be a physiotherapist. It could be maybe they need some gels to the lubrication. There's so many different things. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm just citing all the research here, what I have read. So it's not just in my research, what I've seen is the whole journey of menopause is not also one expert can help you, because there is so much that's happening, right? One is like we're talking about the pelvic health. You might need a physiotherapist or a pelvic health specialist, as an example. Then you might need a sexual therapist, right? Just giving an example. You might need an OBGYN if your estrogen level and hormone fluctuation is going so crazy that you're having hot flushes. If you want to do herbs and supplements, you might need to get a naturopathic doctor, right? As an example, or breathing exercises. So it's a multifaceted approach that women have to take. And I'm not sure women understand that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And thank you for sharing also about naturopath and those options as well. If somebody is thinking they don't want to go on hormone replacement or something like that. But of course, all of these things you do want to be discussing with a medical doctor or somebody who is a trained professional to really get a full understanding and picture of where you are and where you'd like to be given the experience that you're having. So yeah, that's a great, great point. Thank you for sharing that. And also the fact that you mentioned earlier, but this is part of the journey. This is not something that just happens like, bam, I turn 50 and now I'm in menopause. It doesn't happen that way, right? It's like this slow transition of your hormones changing and evolving and whatever transitioning until you reach that point. So yes, thank you again for sharing that. I kind of want to change gears a little bit and talk to you about if somebody is thinking that they want to start a business or you've started the website, and we talked earlier and you were mentioning that there's going to also be an app available. So if somebody is thinking like, I want to start something like a business or develop an app, and they're just unsure, what would you suggest that maybe they begin to start that journey?
It's actually not an easy answer, to be honest with you, because there are so many apps and the whole world is flooded with wellness apps in today's day and age. It's not easy to find a niche. I'll be honest with you. It took me 3 years to find exactly where I wanted to focus. So honestly, it's because there's so much out there right now with so much content. It's like we are over flooded with everything. So I think the best thing I would say is to find something that you are passionate about. That's what I am doing because I tried few things here and there. And then I realized I am really passionate about this topic. And I think that's the best way to find from your inner self what is it that you're passionate about so that you can keep going. You don't get tired when you start something, you're going to stumble on all kind of roads, right? That might not lead to the success. It would be failures and all kind of bumps during that entrepreneurial journey. It happens to everyone. It's happened to me. It's happening to me, right? In the last 3 years, it was not an easy road. So the only thing that I know that I have been keep going is because of the passion I have for the topic, for the subject, this matter. So I think that's what I would tell women, whoever wants to start anything, wellness, so it doesn't matter what. You just have to be passionate about whatever you want to do, and then you find a way. And that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's such a great point, and it's so true. I've been an entrepreneur myself, so I know that the journey is challenging, and if unless, like you shared, you were passionate about it, it's something that you absolutely do not ever wanna give up on because 'cause you're gonna need that in those times that are difficult or you run into roadblocks and challenges. Yeah, so great reminder for sharing that. And if you would tell us, do you have an idea of when the app might be arriving?
Yeah, we are in the final stages. We have just been improving the app. So I think within this year for sure, we are about, I think, a month away. We're just finalizing a lot of things, content and stuff like that. The app, if I may add a little bit more details, the intention of the app is really, we looked into a lot of options. So what I found was going to any medical health provider. For instance, let's say if you don't have insurance, and in this case, I don't know what insurance covers in menopause, but it could be very expensive because by the time you end up doing testing and the consultation could be few $1,000s, right? $2,000 to $3,000 on an average. That's what I did the maths. Functional medicine doctor. I'm talking all holistic right now. Functional medicine, naturopathic doctors. So the idea was, and then again, you are confused. You don't know because you already got 45 minutes of an expert telling you whatever. And then you are again don't know, and then again you the same thing. The same story cycles. So the whole idea of this app was to provide credible information from around the world, from global holistic experts, and at an affordable price. So at least women know I have the right information. And I'm not trying to solve the hot flashes here, right? We are trying to do is give credible information, and then they can take all that credible information. At least they're empowered with the right knowledge to ask the right questions, to choose the right provider. That was really empowerment. So this app is really the idea of empowering the women. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, that's so, so important. Really knowing the questions to ask. So, having credible information that you can do research on, knowing that this is factual, you can believe in this information, and then help to put you in a position that now you know what to ask your doctor, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. So, if we're talking about taking control through this empowering, how does this technology kind of help you to do that?
So, yeah, so technology is just an enabler, right? That's the way I look at it. No AI is going to solve your hot flashes, unfortunately. I wish it could. Some kind of an AI robot. Okay, I'll take your hot flashes away. So I think of technology as a tool to help women to connect with the right kind of providers, to get the right kind of information, to connect with some kind of a coaches, as an example, or and get the information, get all the information. And AI can be used. I'm not saying AI cannot be used, depending on the symptom woman is having. There could be some models that could be made, but we haven't done that. So I don't know if there is anything, because the problem is there's a lack of research in this topic itself. So I don't know how much technology from automatic way can help. There's a lot of work that needs to be done before technology becomes so powerful, specifically in this under this topic. I'm talking only on menopause, right? So right now, I think the technology is an enabler. The other things that are important are the providers and the information that's accurate, research that's been going on. All that is more important at this juncture of time for the menopause topic.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for reiterating that. You're right. It is about gaining information, getting that kind of empowerment so that you can then follow through with the appropriate person who's going to be able to help you, the doctor, the talk therapist, naturopath, whatever the case may be. So, yeah, thank you for reiterating that. So, can we dive a little bit deeper into perimenopause? And if you want to maybe share, what are some of the other experiences that women might be having if they're in that mid to late 30s, transitioning into 40s? What are things that they might be seeing happen?
In today's day and age, perimenopause is happening at a younger age for women, right? As early as mid 30s, because a lot of women are getting puberty younger. So that whole cycle has kind of shifted. So it's very important for 30-some women to be aware of this whole perimenopause. So typically the first sign of a perimenopause is your irregular periods. That is typically the first sign. And what is happening is, as I explained, the hormones are going to fluctuate. Due to this fluctuation of hormones, which are so erratic, even if you get the test, sometimes it won't tell you during the perimenopause journey because the hormones are all over the place. There's no baseline, is what I'm trying to say. Now, as a result of that, anxiety, women will feel more anxiety during this phase. Even short memory lapses, right? What we call brain fog can happen, very common. In fact, there's a research that has been done that our woman's brain changes during the menopausal years, believe it or not. So that's kind of scary if you think about it. And right. And then the weight, oh my God, some women just cannot let go of the weight. Suddenly the weight is suddenly put on weight, and then specifically on the mid region in the bloating, the gut health gets changes. Even the gut microbiome changes. It becomes different. So if you can imagine all these things changing in your body, it's right. You're going to feel anxiety. And of course, the hot flashes, night sweats, we talked about that. We talked about the sexual health. We talked about the pelvic health. We talked about the vagina earlier, right? And then there's a hair thinning from the looks point of view, a woman's look point of view. The hair thinning happens. The skin gets thin. So all that can result into low self-esteem for women. That is the truth. right? We women are used to being in our 20s and early 30s, looking great, and suddenly now that thing is going down, and it impacts us. So that's what happens generally if we don't take care of ourselves, right? I want to put that in double quotes. If we take care of ourselves, we can navigate this journey with much better than if we don't take care of ourselves. But all these hormone fluctuations are still going to happen. It's just part of the journey. It's part of the life stage.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Amita, for kind of sharing some of the different things that we could begin to see happening. And the age I'm at, I am in menopause. And so I've experienced all of those things that you just described. So I get it. And I do try to take care of myself and exercise and eat right and all of that. So, and I know how important all of that is, but these things for sure impact how we're feeling about ourselves when we're suddenly losing our hair or having that brain fog and you're just like wondering what in the heck is going on. And so I think remembering that this is part of life, and not to say that we have to just completely accept that this is all going to just be terrible. There's things that we can do. We can make sure that our eating habits are great. We're visiting our doctor. We're discussing where our hormones are at. Whatever we need to do to make improvements, working with those professionals, we can do that and not just accept this as this is the end and forget it. Your life is never going to be good again, or some kind of depressing thought like that. But there's something that I wanted to ask you, and that's really like in the area of what are things that we can do to help with this transition. I mentioned our exercising and our eating right, but is there anything that you want to share or add to that women can do to begin to help themselves through this process?
Absolutely. It's actually a very comprehensive, holistic viewpoint that women need to take care during this phase. Specifically, the reason being is because of the rise of chronic conditions post-menopause. So 80% of the women over the age of 55 have one chronic condition. And when we are talking about chronic condition, we are talking about diabetes, osteoporosis, dementia, cancer, and heart condition. So now coming back here in the middle, where the woman is going to menopause or postmenopause, it's in addition to your diet and exercise, there is a lot of your mental health, your time, right? That's very important. Your me time, your self-care, using some of the principles of Ayurveda, which we are talked a lot about in NourishDoc, and also some of the herbs, some of the supplements that you can do, some of the other mind, body, and soul, right? We talk about that. So the body therapies like massages and some essential oils, some medicated oils, all those things, some herbal remedies, some home remedies, some of the spices you can do. There's so much out there that women can do in addition to just exercise. Even exercise, you don't have to beat yourself every single day. It doesn't mean that you have to do the right type of exercise because your bone mass is going down, right? We know that because of the fluctuations. So everything gets different. Even the eating part, you need to get rid of caffeine and alcohol and sugar and make sure you get rid of the red meat. So and then supplement that with natural estrogen, phytoestrogens. So it's just a very kind of a interconnected, right? It's all connected with each other. It's not that, unfortunately, there's no one magic pill that I can take when someone is in menopause or going through perimenopause and everything is going to go away. Maybe you could take a pill for hot flashes as an example and hot flash will go away, but your menopause is still there, unfortunately, or something else was there. You see what I'm saying? So one of the other things I want to mention is that a lot of inflammation builds up in women's, like all of our bodies. So a lot of it is what Ayurveda talks about, is inflammation that's been built up over the years, right? Whether it's from environment or from wrong eating or all those kind of things. So if you get rid of the inflammation, then that helps you to navigate during the phase. Cleansing, right? It's cleansing your system inside out. we always think of outside, right? Applying the right makeup and creams and all kind of things. I do that too. But in reality is honestly, you've got to cleanse from inside, the inside of your body. So that can help a lot. You'll feel the difference in your energy. We didn't talk about the energy and the fatigue that women can have, joint pains, right? In also. So that you'll feel the energy if you do cleansing of your system. These are all the things women can do. And we
Yeah.
talk about that in the app. It's not that we're kind of talking about all those things.
Yeah, that's great, Amita. Thank you for kind of diving into some of those other things too. And remembering that we don't have to beat ourselves up if we're not working out 2 hours every single day or whatever. That's not really healthy, I think, for anybody. But it's so important that we just are working with a proper medical provider or the holistic naturopath because we want to target what it is that we need specifically, right? And unfortunately, no, there's not just a magic pill that we can take and it makes all of it go away.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that's not out there yet. It is very intricate and a lot of moving parts and pieces and very individual. It's going to be different for everybody. And so we really have to work with somebody who's going to work with us in helping us to meet us where we're at for all of these different pieces that we're experiencing and with our lifestyle. So that's super important. And you mentioned earlier about how there just has not been enough studies done on women's health, women's bodies. And
Mhm.
I think we're just starting to see more studies happening, which is going to be great moving forward. That's going to be fantastic to really help us understand even more fully and help the doctors understand more fully so that they can help us better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the reasons I think that not enough studies have been done on women's health is because most of the women were not working. They were not in the workplace. They were home. They were homemakers, majority of them, right? If you go back a couple of decades back or whatever. So they didn't have much voice the way now women have. So recently, a bill has passed for $250 million of research that's dedicated to menopause alone, just literally 2 days back by Jill Biden. So that's an amazing, amazing step in the right direction. And even Melinda Gates is also, I'm not sure where the menopause part, but she's spending a lot of resources in women's health, right?
I think that also because there were almost out was very little women doctors. So if you're not having women as doctors, they're not going to be studying women's bodies. And they've always kind of looked at it as like women were sort of smaller men. Somebody had shared that with me. And I think that's kind of true. They sort of just assumed that we were like men, but just maybe a little bit smaller, a little bit weaker or whatever. But we're not. We are completely different, right? And so now having resources to do these studies is going to be tremendous.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other gap in all this is that even the medical doctors are not taught about this. That is a huge gap right now. In fact, one of the medical doctors, she told me that only 8 hours is devoted to a topic of menopause during their 12 years of journey of studying whatever they're studying. Can you imagine that? And what are you going to learn in 8 hours? So that is a huge gap. I mean, you think that not that I want to downplay medical doctors here, but this education system is what I'm talking about. It's just hasn't been focused on this topic. That is what I'm trying to reiterate. Now, if nobody has been taught about this and you go to whoever the profession and they obviously have not been taught, what is going to happen? So that's why there's a lot of research that a woman has to do by themselves to understand this, right? It's a huge gap. But now, of course, things are changing because we are talking about this and there's this Jill Biden thing that's happening. More professionals are definitely going to educate themselves on this topic. So hopefully things will be much better now.
Yeah, I agree. I hope so too. I think that anytime we can make improvements in the quality of the education that is going into with these doctors and even ourselves, what we're learning, the materials that become available for us to learn and understand what is happening, I think it's going to be tremendous and just make it better for all of us. So I think that's awesome. Amita, this has been so great. I love this topic. I love learning more, and I think this is fantastic for the listeners. Is there anything else that you want to share with the person that's listening that maybe you haven't shared to this point about perimenopause, postmenopause, anything in there?
No, I think it's a long journey. Women are going to spend 1/3 of their life in this menopause, perimenopause, right? Think about that. If so, pay attention to your body, invest in yourself. Self love, self care is very important. We women end up taking care of everyone else except for ourselves. I think I want to reiterate that. It's important for you to take care of yourself specifically during this journey more to avoid getting a chronic condition. We didn't talk about that, but there is quite a bit of correlation to that as well, right? So that's what I want to end up with, urging women to really pay attention and take care of themselves.
Yeah. Great reminder. Thank you for that. It's so important for us to fill ourselves up so we can help others instead of depleting ourselves because we're giving everything we have to everybody else. And the tie that leads to, as you shared, the things that could be developing for us later, cancers and what was it? And now I'm having some brain fog.
Dementia.
Yes, thank you. Dementia. Yes, some of the things that start to develop at these earlier ages because we are not caring for ourselves as we should. So great reminder. Is there any books or podcasts that you think that the listeners should check out? Because I always love to get great recommendations of things that you have found influential or beneficial that the listeners should check out.
There's not just one book, but I think there are quite a few books on menopause. But I personally read all kind of books. Like right now, I'm reading a book. It's a classic called Crime and Punishment, and that's just talking about life as in general, right? On menopause, I'm not sure at which one particular book, but there are a lot of books, a lot of women, a lot of doctors have written. But I think there's one book that has been written on how a brain changes of a woman, that by Dr. Lisa Moroney. So that's something worth taking a look at that. I think that because I was talking a little bit about how the brain shifts as women ages. So that's something that I think is fascinating because it changes your cognitive ability, changes your thinking, memory, all those things, right? And the dimension we're talking about. So that's something I think women should look into, that kind of approach, to understand more about the changes that they're going to go through as they age.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. And for sure, include the details in the show notes. I think that's a fantastic suggestion. I'm going to look for that myself because I think it's fascinating as well. The brain, the development of the brain, how the neuroplasticity of the brain. So as we're changing and aging, the changes that the brain's going through, I think that's so fascinating. So great recommendation. Is there any podcast that you enjoy listening to that you think the listeners should check out?
I've been listening to a lot of actually very sort of like a spiritual podcast. So I'm not sure people, it's mainly like Satguru. He's talking about more spirituality. So it's more about a higher self, the cosmic self. I'm a lot kind of believe in the spiritual part. So I just go into those kind of things. But I think if women really want to understand this aspects of the journey, there are a lot of good podcasts right now on this whole mid-age, right? It's beyond, it's not just the physical part, but it's more than that. So I think they can go into listen notes or somewhere. I myself am not listening to any menopause podcast because I'm on them for quite a few, but I highly recommend women to check a few of those out.
No, that's great. And these don't necessarily have to be specific to this topic, but just any that you think would be good. And I love this idea of experiencing the spiritual side too, and exploring that as well. And so I think that's a great recommendation. So thank you for sharing that with us. Amita, before we close out, would you share with the listeners how they can find you, follow along on the work that you're doing, and your website, any social sites that you want to share where you're active, they can pick your brain? Go ahead and do that now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think go to our website. That's where we'll be posting the links to download the app, www.nourishdoc.com. And we active on all social channels, Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn. We are quite active. So follow along. And as we keep posting new research and new ideas and what's happening in this field as well, I want to make sure that we keep everyone going what is happening in this field. So that's what I would suggest.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, I will include the details for the website and your social links as well so that the listeners can check you out and see the work that you're doing on the site. And then, of course, when the app becomes available. So thank you again, Amita. It has been a delight having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this information with us.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, wonderful. We'll talk more soon. Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in to another insightful episode of the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. We appreciate your time and curiosity as we explore fascinating topics together. If you enjoyed today's discussion, be sure to join us next week for another amazing episode. Remember, your journey of learning and growth is a continuous adventure, and we're thrilled to be part of it. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next week, stay curious and keep exploring those pockets of knowledge.